Well, hello everybody. It's Chris again with Click Team. Another Reactor stream on Friday the 17th. Uh, don't have much new for you today. Actually spent the whole week working on our level editor, which I just released just 30 minutes ago to Click Store. I'll get it up on the forums for the $10 supporters shortly. But if you're a $15 supporter or higher, you can get it off Click Store right now. I'm going to show it off for a little bit. And then our fellow Fusion developer responsible for Fission Superstar X sent me a new build. We're going to give it a try, see what it's all about. And then after that, at some point, we got to decide what you want me to work on for the next stream. So sit back, enjoy, and let's check out this new editor. I decided to call it the coolest level editor because, you know, it's cool. I made it. And let's see how it works. You guys hear me? I want to make sure you can hear me. Awesome. All right, so yeah, we got this cool little intro I borrowed from another really cool Click Store item, which I'm going to share with you. A little bit of code. This Juicy VFX twinning software is really cool. It did some cool twinning effects. That's how I was able to get the buttons to do this cool little bit of business right there. And then I wrote a scaling algorithm just to give it a little flair. And from the screen, you can create a new level or load an existing one. We'll start with new. And here's your blank editor. So it looks a little similar to what I showed you last time. Things to note is the hotspot button up here for the menu. Highlight it, and you get your menu options. Down here is our layer selection. Early on when we started the level editor, one of our users asked for parallax scrolling, so we've included that in this level editor, and you switch between them. I defaulted it to the gameplay layer in this particular example, but it's totally configurable to whatever you guys want. And the level editor is more of a template for you to get going and building your own custom things. But if you see down here in the bottom corner, we've got a far background, a near background, a game player layer, and then a foreground. So if you actually want to have like big trees that you come past the view that are not part of the gameplay layer. The menu, again, has 6 total tiles currently, and you can add as many as you want. And then down here is the delete option. In our menu, we can load levels, save levels, and we have test play. Settings, we can change the grid setup and the background color. I'm going to go through all these functions one at a time. So the first thing we want to do in the gameplay layer is we want to create some ground, right? Well, one thing I decided is you probably want some tiles to be obstacles and some not. So over the week, I added the function that if you double click on a tile, or rather click again, you can toggle whether or not it's an obstacle. So as you can now see, the ground tiles marked obstacle. So if I was to draw that into the world, I've got an obstacle. If I was to turn it off, mouse is being finicky. And then if we were to test play it, so we're walking on the solid ground, and then we should fall right through because the engine now will store whether it's an obstacle or not an obstacle, and when it renders the level, set the appropriate settings. So we'll end the test there, and we'll delete our level. With the delete function, cool. So I'm going to actually go to the far background layer. I'm going to select the water tile, and I'm going to draw some water. Then I'm going to go to the next level, the near background, and I'm going to change the grid. So here's the grid dialog that I created. It stores the grid data globally. We have current layer, grid, grid Y, grid X, and the background color selected. It's all stored as a global value. And from this dialog, we can edit it. So the first thing we'll go ahead and leave it X32 for now. But then the Y, I'm going to change to 16 briefly. The reason I'm going to do that is because on the near background, I'm going to add more water, but I want it offset to get that tiled effect. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and go back to the gameplay layer. Now with the arrow keys on the keyboard, which you can't seem to use, but the arrow keys on the keyboard, you can actually tap through the larger level to see the effect of what you're doing. And that allows me to get an idea of how it's going to work. So now we're on the gameplay layer. I want to put my settings back to 32 and 32. And then we're going to select ground again, and we'll make it an obstacle. And then we'll start down here, and we'll create, I guess, a hill. And we'll do that. Maybe the hill pops up. Then we have a gap. And then maybe it falls down. And then maybe it goes down a little bit more. So these have all been set to obstacle. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the angle piece here. And I'm going to pop them in wherever I feel necessary. I think that's it. And then the other angle, I've got one down here. Great. Now, I'm going to make the dirt tile obstacle for here, 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 and here. But I'm going to leave that open. And then I'm going to make the rest of them non-obstacles. It really doesn't matter. I guess you wouldn't have to, but maybe in some design for one of your guys' games or engines, you'd want it to work this way so that you could determine you know, which ones are obstacle and which are not. You may want transparent background. In fact, I was messing around with one layer and I made a cave like in the old, you know, hidden 16-bit games where you walk in and find a hidden cave. You could do that by leaving your background tile as a non-obstacle. I also want to erase this to make it look like fall to your death. Cool. And then maybe we add some boxes. You know, the old Mario box action. And then we could change the background color. So we go to settings, background color, and it pulls up this color dialog, which is an object in Fusion that you'll have to download from the manager should you use this demo, and you can change the background color to whatever you want. Now, maybe you don't want to use background colors. You could build into this editor easily enough a background image that you could swap in and out. Again, it's just the base core engine for folks to base their game on. So let's go ahead and test our level now. And there's our guy. And we got a little bit of parallax scrolling action going on there. Now you notice I didn't set my little platform guys to obstacles, so of course I can jump right through them. So to fix that, I'd have to go back to the editor. And then I'd have to delete the bad. There we go. Now we got obstacle, obstacle. And then if we test it again, and I fell right through, so that's interesting. I wonder if I found a bug that I wasn't supposed to find. Well, we'll just make sure. Hope it's not a bug. So it overwrites. If you look at the obstacle count, 790. To make sure that you're not using more obstacles than necessary, I wrote an override algorithm. So when I drag in place, it's going to swap out those tiles that are beneath it and then replace the new ones. So you can still see them at 790 tiles. So let's run it and see if it works now. It does. Now I bet you, oh, those work too. Good. And we got collision there, and we're running around. Excellent. So let's see if we have any questions so far. Yeah, old Flash. Who wants to mess with Flash these days? And I'd like to appreciate all the viewers that come over from Windybeard Games stream. Thanks for visiting. He uses Fusion. I work for ClickTeam, the tool that the company that builds Fusion. And We're proud to have Windy Beard as one of our users. He's got some really, really good games. We did a stream of Dreamstones last week for his release. You can check that out on our YouTube page. We'd really appreciate it if you'd follow our Twitch page. And if you want to check out our Reactor, it's our patron service, which is a membership service that not only allows us to do these streams and create all these examples, but you get free items every month off our asset store and a bunch of other features. And I'll put the link up for that in a second. But yeah, today we're working in Fusion on a level editor. I read in Windy Beard's stream just a couple minutes ago that next week he's going to build a level editor for his new platform game he's working on, so that'll be kind of cool to see. I'd like to see what he does. Our level editor does all the data storage using the list object, which I'm going to show you in a second how that works. I just wanted to get the patron link for you guys. And no questions in YouTube. Let me just say hello to them real quick. Hello. All right. Yes. So for Noda Robot 10101010 binary, awesome. Yes, you can write your own extensions in Fusion. I will show you where to get that information. So you go to clickteam.com, the internet's destination for all things ClickTeam. And I believe we've got it under support, extensions, SDK, and then we have SDKs for Windows, iOS, even Flash, Android, and HTML5. We have one coming soon, hopefully, for the UWP exporter, which gives you access to Windows phones, the Windows Store, and Xbox. So, yeah, cool. That's a great question. Thanks for asking. And yeah, so Wendy wants to know how I did my level editor. This is the same level editor method that I've used in my game Quaddle. For those of you that are not familiar with the horrible game that is Quaddle. Quaddle. There it is. It is a little puzzle game. So it's not a 2D side-scroller like Windy Beard or this last editor is working. But that's why I like this method that I'm showing you, is because it's so easily adaptable to anything. As you can see, the game's constructed of tiles in the case of these bricks that you jump around. And the level editor in this game serves two functions. The game has over 120 levels, and I didn't want to handcraft each one in each frame, so playing it smart, you make one frame. And you build a level editor and level loader. The second purpose is it's a puzzle game, so I built my level editor to only allow me to save if I successfully complete the board, which was a real cool way to avoid having anyone build a level that doesn't work. It worked well enough that I included the level editor in the Steam version of the game. So the method it uses, let's go ahead and let's end our test. And let's save our level to stream November 17th. And then, of course, I could load that back up, or I could load a previous one I was working on, however you want to do it. So how does it work? It's actually not very complicated. The entire editor that I've shown you, the edit portion of it, if I remove the comments, is less than 130 lines of code. So if I remove all comments, it's less than 130 lines of code. So fairly easy to do the loading. The loading part, as you can see, this is just two types of loading groups. There's the load group you see here, which is just to load the editor version of the level. When you go to the playtest screen, you have a slightly different version of it. It's basically double the events, because we have one group of level loading for obstacles and one group for not obstacles. So rather, not obstacles and obstacles. And let me show you how that works. So when we build a level, when we build a level, we place tiles. Each tile has a tile number in our tile selector, and these are all part of the areas group. And then over here, each tile, which is part of the reference points group, and you can change it to whatever you want, they also have a matching tile number. So you can see that the ground tile is tile number 0, but the angle tile is tile number 4, and it corresponds here. Excellent. And then you see obstacle. Whenever I tap these buttons, I toggle the obstacle option, which if we look, I believe it's here. We toggle by adding to obstacle here. We add one to obstacle, as long as the previous tile that we selected is the same one. Otherwise, whenever you switch between tiles, you'd end up toggling them, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense. So the current selected tile needs to match the tile number that you're clicking on. And then this is just to make sure that you don't have problems with the menu interface. So if the menu interface is completely visible, which is layer 6, and you've selected the tile and selected area match, then we add one to obstacle. If obstacle is, of course, greater than 1, because we want a binary, we set it back to 0. And that value gets then passed on to the tile that we place. And we show you that here when we place a tile, which is down here, placing and deleting tiles. So we have 2 methods for placing and deleting a tile. We have the drag method, which allows me to do that. And then we have the just the click method, which just places one tile. And each of those, this one is the drag method, and then this one is just the place a single tile, triggers a fast loop. The fast loop is a nested fast loop for the drag, because it calculates the distance between the distance of the original mouse click here, and then how far off it is divided by your grid X and grid Y. And that determines how many times we loop Y, and then how many times we loop X to allow us to build rows and columns. And then you can see here, I'm setting the position based on the loop when it's the drag method. And then as you can see right down here, I'm again setting that obstacle value. So we set the position of the tile and set the obstacle value, and it places it on the screen. So that embeds some data. And of course, each tile type is represented by creating a different tile on the screen. So when we get to saving the data, which is very simple, when the group is activated, we destroy any tiles that happen to be outside of the play area, because we don't want erroneous tiles drawn outside of the area. And then we start the save loop based on the number of lines we have. We start the save loop, rather, based on the number of tiles that we have left. And then right before we do that, I add a specific line called settings. And then you see I've used the symbol here, which I believe we call pipe. And then I have my background color that I've selected passed as a string. So that line gets created first. And then we start loop save level, number of objects, number of tiles left on the screen. So on each loop, it picks one of them, and then it stores this data here. So it adds a line storing the X between a pipe with Y between a pipe, the tile number of that particular object, which will help us determine which tile it is, which layer it's on, and then the obstacle state. And the cool thing about the list object is it creates automatically individual lines that we can consider individual items. When the flag 5 is on and I have no more objects, then it goes to the tester, or it just deactivates the save group if it's not off. So that's just a flag. So really the saving function is really just this right here, which is pretty cool for saving the level. Now, how do we load the data? I've created this crazy concatenated string, right? How do we turn that into a level? Well, it's through the magic of the string parser, which is like one of my favorite objects. So when we start the level load, we start by, which I did in a previous event, I loaded an external list file into the edit box. So we can probably show that if Steam would quit doing what it's doing. Great. So if I go to the list save, you can see that here I've loaded the list file. You do that here, or if I've manually loaded. And that will load a list file. And list files look an awful lot like this. So let's pull up one. There's the one we just made, and that's what the data looks like when we load it. Right? So there's that settings one you see at the top, and then the various entries that we made. Once it gets dumped back into the list object, we then are able to say, well, run the load level group or fast loop based on how many lines we have. So we then start iterating. And as you can see, looking similar to what you saw above here in the main editor code with the, let's see here, very similar to this type of method. We start by loading into the string parser, which the delimiter is. And the delimiter is basically a way to divide up the data in a string. And then we set the source string to the very first line. So the first line is always going to be that settings line. So if it is the settings line, I then pull the background color out of the second element in that delimited string. So if we remember, we only have one delimiter right here, which makes this element 1, and this makes it element 2. So in my expression editor, I just say, give me the string for element number 2 out of the parser. Of course, I got to convert it to a value because it stores it as string data. And then I delete that line so that the next time I iterate, I'm not pulling that line again because the fast loop is going to continue to iterate through the list object. So it iterates through, and then it sets the next line, which would be this line here. This is now the first line in the list object because once this line has been deleted, it bumps it up. So it reads, it knows that the list 1 is not equal settings, so it ignores that, and then it checks which one of these, which I believe, the tile type, in this case, it's going to pull 2. So on this line here, it triggers. And what it does is it creates that water object, and then it pulls the position of X and Y from the delimited string. It moves it to the layer for the delimited string, and then it sets its obstacle value. And then, of course, we delete that line. And then it iterates through until it gets through all the lines of the code, and the list object's empty. Now, the difference between this and the actual loader that you'd use in your level is that, in this case, to keep the object count down and to equate for the different obstacles and non-obstacles, we check to see if element 5, which is the obstacle setting, is it 0 or 1. If it's 1, then we add the backdrop as an obstacle and clears out the object in memory, which is great. And then here, if it's not an obstacle, we add backdrop as not an obstacle. And if I did it right, you see I only have 7 objects now versus the 790 objects that you see here. So that cuts down on the number of active objects. Now you don't have to do that in your game. In Quaddle, I don't delete the bricks. I leave them, they're active objects because I have to change the color of the bricks every time Quaddle jumps on them. So, you know, it depends on you. But I wanted to show you that particular methodology for those who are new to level editors. Let's see if we have any questions. So Wendy asks, is this the most efficient way for doing a level editor? There's 100 million ways to do level editors. This is just one way I like to do it. It's totally up to you. But I do find the string parser and the list object to be a very strong combination of tools. I wasn't the hugest list object fan, but a fellow coworker at 2 programming jobs ago when we were writing Android apps, some of you maybe remember Snail, sold me on the power of the list object, and he was right. It's a very powerful object, and if you haven't experienced it in combination with the string parser, it's definitely something to experiment with. You can do a lot of really cool things. I wouldn't say it's the most efficient, but it certainly pulls off the results in the littlest amount of events, and it can work for a lot of different projects. I was able to take David N's platforming engine and instantly use it with this level editor without fail. And if we actually go to the playtest engine, you'll see that these events here are actually David N's platforming engine. I was able to dump my level data my load data and my objects into my game and just pull in his platforming engine, and it worked fine, which is pretty good testament. Let's see, got a new question. How do you find programming jobs, and what should you have in your profile to show them? That is an excellent question. If I can actually figure out what a guaranteed methodology is to get a job in programming, I'll let you know. I think the last 3 programming jobs I had being played as a full-time employee was a little bit of luck in who I knew. Still looking for a programming job right now, actually. So if you figure something out, Norden, please let us know. So Windybeard says he uses arrays and uses each position as a tile and each Y as different info. Windy, that's an excellent methodology. My game Bit Odyssey is procedurally generated. I actually used a 3-dimensional array to store the entire never-ending galaxy, and it's actually 4 layers deep because in order an array only works in the positive in Fusion. So I have 4 layers to represent the 4 different quadrants I would need to actually stretch it out endlessly. So arrays are very powerful, and just like you, I use the grid itself just to be the XY data in the map for the star map. So yeah, arrays are great. Arrays are also a little more complex, so maybe if our fellow reactants who join the reactor want me to do an array level editor, we will do that next time. But I thought I'd go with the simple so that it can reach the most people. Oh, cool. Dreamstone uses arrays too. So now I'm going to have to poke into your arrays. Mess with your stuff. Any other questions before I continue? Any other questions? Any other inquiries that I can do for you guys? Oh, got a whole lot here. Okay, so I'm on the YouTube channel, and we got several viewers here asking some questions. Let's see. So Sega asked, what is the program? The program is ClickTeam Fusion. It's a multimedia game app authoring tool. It's the original game development tool. It's been around since before '93, and we're using Fusion 2.5. Games like Five Nights at Freddy's, The Escapists, Freedom Planets, and others have been made in the tool. If you have any other questions about Fusion, let me know. And let's see here. So Dane ZZIL says, I'm doing it a very hard way. Okay. I don't know what to say to that. Most folks think this is the easiest way, or one of the easier ways. But if you can PM me or shed some light, I've been using Fusion for 17 years and I'm still learning. Funniest story, I was at a trade show with Francois, one of the founders of ClickTeam, and we were doing some programming for some people, showing them how to use the tool. And I was programming and I'm doing things, and you can see on the screen here, and he watched me and I went like this, right? I just went like that. And he goes, wait, what are you doing? What is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a shortcut in Fusion. And then I did that. And he goes, wait, what is that? I'm like, it's a shortcut. And he goes, I wrote the program and I didn't even know about it. So kind of cool when after 16 years you're still learning cool stuff. So, all right, let's see if Twitch has any more questions. Okay, we got quite a few. Okay, so Jeff wants to know, if you plan including level editor in your game, what's the basic stuff you need to keep to load levels in your game? In the comments, which I've included in the file, I did actually go in and explain all that. You can see I wrote you some comments. You gotta build a system. You gotta build a system that includes the rules, if you will. So in this particular model of a level editor, what goes in has to what comes out. So you got to know how many tiles you're going to have beforehand. And if you add a tile, which my instructions show you how to do it, you're going to have to not only add the tile to the editor, but you're going to add it to the save and load routines. Well, in this engine, just the load routines. So it's flexible, but the more pre-planning you do, the more accurate and quickly you're going to be able to do your work, which is typical in game development regardless. So if you're not one who does game design documents, become one who does. And so, yeah, so Jeff is asking, what code do you need for the actual final game. So if I was to deploy the game that I made with this level editor without the level editor, then the only group that you would need from this is the particular tiles that you're using, and this group right here, load data, found in the level tester, which is around 22 lines of code. And that's it. You drop that in, and you make sure you have the objects, and you're good to go. And you could pass your level strings. I'm doing save file name, but you could manually feed it in the level names numerically or whatever you want to do. Can you code in Fusion, or is it purely drag and drop? So Fusion uses what we call the event editor. The event editor is our form of programming. It's higher level than scripted programming, just as scripted programming was a higher level than assembly, and assembly was a higher level of programming than punch cards. Just the next evolution. And we're still growing and developing. Once Fusion 3 comes out, which I can't talk too much about, but when Fusion 3 does come out, we think it's going to be probably the closest to giving you all the same power that scripted language does, but with the power of the event editor. The event editor allows you to code quickly and rapidly, and cuts down on a lot of the errors that you could experience when typing code. That's a great question, and I appreciate it. And one second, my computer's trying to restart on me. So Windows really just likes to tell you what it's doing. Can this editor be for, are you asking if the editor can be for iOS, or is Fusion for iOS? Fusion is a Windows or Mac-based editor, but it can develop apps for Windows. If you go here and you go to your app's properties, I pretty much have all the export options. I can make a Mac export, Windows, Flash, Android, iOS, HTML5, and UWP. Some of our export options actually make a compiled source. Like Windows will make an actual exe file. Android will actually make an APK file for installation. But then places like UWP, iOS, and Mac actually create scripted code that you have to then load into a separate compiler like Xcode or Visual Studio. But either way, I can, with proper planning, for instance, the game Quaddle I mentioned earlier, with a couple global values and proper coding, I can actually switch between builds by switching a global value and hit file build, and the changes I made in the main source will work on any build. So that's pretty cool. It actually helps save a lot of time. I'm not going to tell you Fusion doesn't have issues. It's just like any other programming language. You've got to learn it, and once you learn it, though, you can really leverage it to your advantage. Any more other questions? Oh, do I have iOS on the bottom right? Oh, that's the skin. That's just a skin I like. On our Click store, you can get a bunch of different skins. I happen to like this skin and play it. Yeah. In my level editor, I'm saving the data as whatever the last save file name is. Or if you haven't got a save file name, it defaults to test so that you can switch between the frames and play and then edit, play and then edit. So those are some great questions. I appreciate it, guys. Oh, so we got someone who wants me to put ClickTeam Fusion Developers part of the Humble Bundle again. Great idea. I think that ship sailed, my friend. I'm sorry. I wish you had bought it when we were basically giving it away for pennies. I don't know if ClickTeam's going to be able to do that again. But keep an eye out for sales. We do sometimes fancy a Steam sale here and there. And you might be able to get it, at least much cheaper than paying full price. So appreciate it, but that's probably not in the cards at this time. Maybe one more time before 3 comes out, but who knows? Okay, so I appreciate that question from Team 89er. And, okay, let's see here. Can you load JSON files? Absolutely. You can load JSON files. Let me show you that. I actually, on my last Android project, had to work with JSON. And you just need a set of objects, which I don't know if I have on here. I don't, but I can show you where there are. Let's go back to our handy dandy Click store. And we'll type in JSON, hit enter. And you got these JSON objects that will actually allow you to read and parse JSON. And of course, JSON's a pretty standardized format, so I use these objects basically just to read the data in from JSON files, and then I parse through them myself using the string parser. I've written Android objects that use MySQL and SQL. So yeah, I mean, it can interact with most other stuff. It's its own programming language. Hope that answers the question. And no, don't be worried about asking too many questions. That's what I'm here for. I want you to ask questions. And Wendy says it can be complicated at first, but once you get the basics down, it's very easy in Fusion. Yeah, it's not complex. And I believe, Jeff, you're a Reactor member, so you can grab the editor and tear through it. I wrote it with the hopes that you would tear through it and other users would tear through it and see how it works. And if anybody has a suggestion on how to improve it, please let me know. So, unless we have any more questions about the editor, I will point out that you can get the editor if you're not a ClickStore user, not a Reactor user, you can grab it, $4.99 on ClickStore. And again, remember, this is the coolest level editor. But if you're a Reactor subscriber to our Reactor membership, you get it for free. In fact, Reactor members are building up quite the collection of free stuff. In a couple days, I hope to switch out and show you what December's freebies will be from the ClickStore, but items like Star Battles, Get Wrecked, Siege, Hackzors, and Coolest Level Editor are always free for Reactor users. And I'm going to put the in-app purchase up on ClickStore soon too, as an example. So that's that. If you guys want, I'm going to go ahead and play a made with Fusion game that's in development called Fission Superstars X. It has space cows. That's fun. It's a really cool looking game. I really dig the art style. I tried to stream it before, but that was before I moved streaming to the Monster machine and off of the Surface tablet, which is what I was streaming on originally, and that was pretty slow. I didn't have a webcam. Got a webcam, and now I can stream off of a device other than the Surface tablet. So I'm going to go ahead and close Fusion. And no, I don't want to save those changes. And here we go. We're going to play Fission Superstar X. Developed by Turbo Pelvis 3000. You gotta love that logo. That's a quality logo right there. So somewhere on Planet X. Planet X seems to be featured in a lot of science fiction, isn't it? You guys ever been to Planet X? If you have, you've probably seen this guy right here. He looks like he's all business. You guys think he looks all business? Well, let's see what kind of options we have. And I'm going to tell my children to be quiet. Can you guys be quiet? No, you're not. These fine folks are trying to watch me talk about stupid nerd stuff and you're being loud. Alright, there you go. So this is new. Igor. I wonder if he's making fun of Al Gore. Because look how it's spelled. Well, I guess that's the same way you spell Gore anyways. So full screen sync, windowed sync, different keyboard types, and sound control. That's cool. We'll leave it the way it is. So let's play. Let's see what's going on. Celine, my dear bomb, will tour the solar system. She will land on every world from Pluto to Earth. But first, I plan to atomize those. But this idea will sound silly now. Putting a giant bomb on a stage is far more logical. Yes, that's what she told me. This guy's got issues. This guy's got issues. But that's what makes it fun. Oh. The bomber's pilot is nearly ready. Time to bring flesh to life. So he's cloning women too. What a swell guy. So it looks like we got some DNA points. I have 2 spare DNA points. And aim, armor. I'm gonna go with armor because you gotta have that health. And you know what? I'm gonna go with health again. Call me a safe player. I wish I could get dressed that quickly. That would be awesome. So I guess this is a schematic of our ship. And it looks like currently I only have one ship. Maybe he's got planned for more ships. But we have some options down here. I can have a science officer, which adds a bottom turret. The engineer fires the rear turret. The medical officer fires the front turret, and he heals wounds. And then special weapons. I'm going to go with the bottom turret because I've noticed that that's, in my previous playtest, is an important feature to have. So, let's go ahead and play. It's time to take off. So, I probably, you know what, I think I want to use my controller. Hopefully the controller will work. And, light. There we go. I believe this is the bomb, the girl on the bottom there that he was referring to. There we go. So I control with the right stick the guns. Blind spots. Boom. So it's a shield. And it's also directional. That's kind of cool. Boom. Get out of here, bad guys. Oh, this is hard. I guess I can push him down. That's cool. I wonder if it causes damage to the ship. We'll experiment. Go for the next one. Nope. Good. Can hustle people out of the way. So I've made it further than last time I played. Alright, upgrade skill. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to improve armor again, because that's just kind of how I am. Oh, that's cool. Oh, there you go. Now I got all the guns. Yes. Oh, I see. I saved and quit. Sorry. There we go. So now I got multiple guns. I was going to say hi to everybody since you're on camera now. Because you're standing in front of the camera. So now I'm feeling pretty cool with all these guns. I wonder if we'll see a space cow. That cash. Oh. I like you can see a little bit of the damage on the ships. It's not big, but it's subtle, but it's cool. I really like the style, the art style. It gives me a dirty Fifth Element feel. Alright. There we go. Oh, look at that. Ammo Boy. This is a great store. I'm just buying everything. bullets bigger? I can't tell. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Get out of here. Use that shield. So I don't see how you use the special weapons. Well, how about that? So I guess my shields use up too much of my energy. And my guns don't seem to be working. I wonder what I'm doing. I'm doing something wrong. Okay, Junker's talking trash. Space whales. You guys want to go to that club, don't you? You want to dance with that guy. BJ looks like he needs to quit the crack. He doesn't look healthy. You know, I think I'm just gonna heal my friends here. Alright. Oh, I see. I might want to upgrade though. I get it. Like, this guy. Oh, I can't buy him now. Oh, I'm just short the money. Oh well. Alright. Oh. Space whales. Whoa! Oh, God bless Major Fusion Games. Whoa! Getting hammered now. Can I take out a space whale? Let's see. Oh! Yikes. Dude, your jaw's missing. I gotta get that look out. Oh! Should I be doing this? Is this like inhumane of me? Oh, that guy's done. That's pretty bad. Sea Shepherd's gonna be coming after me in a minute now. Not the space whales. Feel guilty. Oh, look, I'm smoking. Woo! Just made it. So, police presence detected. I guess we'll try the asteroid field. Oh, is that gonna hurt? Oh, I guess the asteroids don't hurt. Maybe the small ones do. That guy's got a saw. Like that. Warning, you're about to blow up. Just make it a little longer. That's tough. Okay. Dr. Leopold launches a new experiment. Oh, man. Thanks, Doctor. Guess I'm not doing anything here. Oh, I'm still looking pretty rough. I guess the damage corresponds to the crew members. Oh, that guy's got a space cycle. Everyone should have a space cycle. Oh no! Oh, that's it. There goes our sweet bomb.
Game over.
Space game over from space. So this is fun. So progress 8. Okay. Cash, some cash money. Navigation stops 5. Okay. Cash earned, cash spent. Let's see if we got a balance sheet for you. Only 10 space giblets, but I destroyed 10 vehicles. DNA points earned, none. No evolving for me. Alright, and it looks like I can't continue, and I'm just not quite ready to punish myself some more. But great game. It's going to come out soon on, I think you told me Steam, and we'll keep you informed on it. You guys have any questions about the game? Let's see if there's any questions over at YouTube. Yes, Team 89er, this game is Click Team made. It's absolutely Click Team made. Anything I show you will be made with Fusion, because Fusion rocks. Looks like Windy Beard left us. It was nice to have you here, Windy Beard. Appreciate it. So guys, I guess I need to hear from you what you want me to make for the next stream. What do you want me to have prepared? We could do whatever you want. Give me some suggestions. I'd love to hear them. Oh look, the menu's controlled with the... But you can't... He's got to fix that. I control with the controller now, but the mouse is no longer working. So I want to complain and say, hey, you should be able to switch between both. You guys have any suggestions of what you'd like to see next week? Some previous suggestions in the last post. Let's take a look. Scroll down here. Dreamstones. Next week, content. Here we go. So physics examples have been suggested. We could do physics. Oh, inventory system. Ooh, I like that. That might be the way to go. A good inventory system. Good one. Let me write that down. Notepad. Pen. Yes, I actually use real paper. Sorry, call me old school. Inventory system. Good suggestion. That just might be a winner. Any other suggestions? So we had physics examples suggested before. Jeffrey, one of our users, wanted to go over an entire, all the different functions that you can use in the expression editor. Some of them I don't even know what they are. So that might be a good one to do. Save and load game. So someone has suggested save and load game that is encrypted. I could do that. I actually have an encryption algorithm I wrote in the oil industry that we could use. I'd have to change it, of course, but yeah, you can even write encryption algorithms in Fusion. I don't know if it's probably not NSA quality in any shape or form, but it was good enough to pass their testing, so we could do that. Firefly examples. We do want to do some Firefly examples, but I'm waiting till probably 1st of December before I do those. And AR apps, that would be a good one to do. I haven't done one, so we'd probably experiment together on that. But yeah, that's a possibility. If you're a Reactor member, I try to do these posts once a week. Please come in and tell me what you want me to make, and we'll make it. And then once we're done making it, it ends up here for you to download and tear apart. And of course, we post the streams that we do on YouTube. Uh, yeah. I'm going to next week try to start doing 2-hour streams. I've been told that hour-long streams aren't long enough. So next week we'll try to do a 2-hour stream. Hello, Perry. How are you doing? Did you just pop in? We were just about to finish. We always do that to you. How large is the developer base for Fusion? Are you asking me how many total users there are, or are you asking how many use developer? That's a question from not a robot. 10101010. Binary solo. Is that what you're asking? Or we'll see what he says in a minute. We'll check YouTube, see if there's any YouTube questions. And that question was answered. We do have a lot of users. I don't know how many are active all the time. Our Steam free version has been downloaded over 250,000 times. That's the last time I checked. That was a while ago, but that's a decent number. We need more users, of course. It's something that we're consistently working on, getting the word out there. And we could use your help. Let people know if you are using Fusion and you think it's good. Let people know. You certainly can succeed with it. You know, several users already have, like Scott with Five Nights at Freddy's. That guy is definitely swimming in his Scrooge McDuck money bin now, which is great. How many developers build games with Fusion? Yeah, I don't know if I can give you an accurate number for that. I can tell you it's over 10,000 probably active users daily actually plugging in globally and using Fusion. And that's me giving you a guess based on the last time I actually looked, which was a year and a half ago when we addressed that question. Sorry, it's not the most accurate answer to your question, but maybe that can give you a range, if you will. So yeah, any other questions before I close out today's Reactor stream? I really do appreciate everybody showing up, and if you're still viewing from coming over new from Windy Beard, I really appreciate it. Jump in, participate, let me know what you want to see. We want to show people how to use Fusion, and we want people to see that it's super easy, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. And if you decide to become part of the Reactor, there's a bunch of other benefits too. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll stay online after the stream for a little while longer and answer any more questions. Again, our streams are usually at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to do it for 2 hours next week. We're going to start trying to do 2 hours, see if that is beneficial to users. I don't know if we'll start at 4 and go to 6 Pacific Standard, or if we'll go 3. Guys, leave me a message. Let me know what's best for you. I know the Pacific Standard is not the most convenient time for most of you. Sorry. But let me know. I want input. Do you know if work is being done on Firefly to import levels from other programs? I can tell you that that is something that we've talked about. I can tell you that we're working on building some things. And the safe answer, so a certain individual doesn't kill me, is we'll have more information you 1st of December on Firefly. Our programmer, who you can see in chat right now, Triad, has been working his butt off on Firefly, and we really wanted to explode it. We know that it's two issues. One, we haven't effectively communicated to the user base yet what it's capable of, and primarily that's because we're coming from a 2D gaming background. We don't have on staff a bunch of 3D artists or 3D game developers, so we've been kind of relying on the community to help us with that. So we know we need to build better examples, and we hope that Firefly Station was the first example of that attempt to show that we can do more and better with the engine. And then the second thing is I know we haven't done the greatest job showing how easy it is to use, so that's something we're going to start covering here on the Reactor and with more examples. But, you know, I think that shows as a pretty good example for only less than a year in being released of what it's capable of looking like based on your skill sets. And the best thing is it's really easy to use. Once you understand the basics, it's really, really easy to use. That's why it took 6 years to make, because we were trying to map uh, the same ease of use that the event editor gives you to the 3D objects. And we had a couple developers on it, and I oversaw the development the whole time. And Ian Triadan really pulled through at the end and wrapped it all up, and he's been pushing hard through. And we're pretty excited what it can do. We're hoping that it finally catches on and actually starts selling well, so his work can be repaid. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. The 3 examples I've made them in less than 3 or 4 days each, and I was pretty excited that I was able to pull off a 3D game that quickly. Okay, so Jeff has his question answered, and I would say, Jeff, that if you need more information on Firefly, if you already have it, one great resource that we have been trying to keep fairly up to date is on the library, and the link for you, sir, is right there. Again, appreciate you watching. If you want to support the stream and get some really cool free stuff, don't forget to visit the Reactor on Patreon. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I'll stay online for a little bit longer and answer any questions that you may have. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.